Business of Property podcast. I'm Stuart.
And I'm Simon.
We're both property people running our own businesses, and this podcast is just us chatting, as we do every week, about anything and everything property. And this week, it's been a while since we've talked about what's going on, Simon, so thought we'd just have a catch up on what's happening with regards to our updates and where you are in your property cycle with your mountains of cash that you've got to invest and with your existing properties. So
I wish it was mountains. What's been dominating my property life the last few weeks actually is nothing to do with purchasing, nothing to do with mountains of cash, that's for sure, and all to do with mundane, boring maintenance hassle.
The realities of property investing is what it is.
Yes, indeed. Especially if you self-manage. But in actual fact, I think even if you have an agent manage things for you, generally speaking, the maintenance they just pass on. So they'll still make you do the decisions.
Mm.
So the property that I have that's most local to me, that I self-manage, has recently, or is undergoing, a change of tenants. So the previous tenants have now moved out, and I have new tenants all booked in, ready to move in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm going through the process of getting the property ready for the new tenants from the old tenants. Now, the old tenants had been there 2.5 years, something like that. So fairly long time. And of course, during that time, a property sees a reasonable amount of wear and tear. And I did also give them permission to put up a shelf or two, which they've taken to largely mean a shelf or two per room, which was a little more than I was expecting, but hey. I knew that was the case, and I also, they told me that they put up quite a few shelves as part of the sort of preparing for them to leave, so I knew that needed some redecoration and repainting.
Am I allowed to say that all sounds rather shellfish?
You are, but you probably shouldn't. However, it's too late now. So moving on, I knew the property needed some redecoration, and I also knew, again, this is something that has clearly been an issue for a while, but the existing or the leaving tenants chose not to tell me until I specifically said, once you leave, is there anything that I need to give some attention to? They said, yeah, there seems to be a damp problem in a couple of rooms. We think it's probably sort of coming from above because there's lots of mould and we've been trying to sort of clean it off and use anti-mould sprays, and it just keeps coming back. And yeah, you probably want to have a look at that. And I got them to send me some photos. And yes, it definitely needed some attention. And I think, in fact, I'm 99% sure it was from a leak in the roof. I'd previously had an issue with that roof, which had a sort of temporary fix applied to that issue. And yeah, it clearly hadn't lasted or wasn't working anymore. So my house maintenance in the last few weeks has included getting a roofer in to repair the roof properly, and decorator is working there now to patch up walls, do bits of repainting, and of course clean away all the mould properly and repaint those bits. And during the checkout with the old tenants, a burn mark to one of the carpets came to light, and also some other uncertain marks. They had hoovered and everything, so they sort of done the standard clean. But yeah, they clearly hadn't done a thorough carpet clean, and there were some bits that showed on that. So I've been talking to a carpet cleaning company, which think they can get out all the marks probably, but obviously can't do anything about the burn. So I now need to see if I can find a carpet fitter who's available at short notice, which is difficult. What else is on my list? Oh yes, the tenants also mentioned in the checkout that the extractor fans in the bathrooms don't seem to really be doing much anymore. So I've been in touch with an electrician to try and get them to come and look at that. And of course, finding an electrician at the moment is a nightmare because they're all really booked up doing electrical safety checks, the EICR certificates, which supposedly every rental property was supposed to have from the 1st of April. And given that they are still really booked up doing these things, quite a few people are obviously running a little late on that.
Yeah, no comment.
Okay, I won't ask there then. Thankfully, your properties are in a different area from mine, so I can't blame you for making no electricians available to me.
Yeah,
so
not my fault.
That's all right.
Not my fault.
So yeah, I'm trying to track down an electrician. The electrician I normally use has very kindly said that they'll come out in an evening to quote. But yeah, then of course when they'd actually be able to do the work, might be a different thing. There's a couple of issues with windows that the hinges just need realigning and sort of sorting out so they open and close properly, and there's a window lock that's broken as well. So I've been trying to find a window company, and again, you phone up. I phoned up a couple of them, and the first one said, "Yep, it's great, yeah, take away details. Yeah, we can fix those things, no problem at all. Let me just pass you to the person who would book in the visit to measure up and quote things." So go through, talk to them, and they say, "Oh yeah, let me just look at the diary. Yep, okay, we can come out and quote for you in 3 weeks' time." I need it fixed in 2 weeks' time, not quoted in 3 weeks. You couldn't have started with this and told me that you're really busy and you can't do anything for 3 weeks. So yeah, and then the next one I phoned up, who's actually a company bit further away, not quite as local, but one I've used before for doing some slightly more major glazing works, and they at least, I told them the rough things that I needed doing, and they actually just said up front, we're too busy. We're not doing maintenance work at the moment. We're only doing new fits, and we're absolutely chocker with those. So we're really sorry, but can't help you this time. So at least that conversation was faster, even though just as unfruitful.
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it? That should be the opening conversation, just before you get to the conversation. Just we can't look at anything for 3 weeks, and then that's a quick decision, isn't it? But I had the same thing recently, just with blinds. So on the property, we were almost finishing, and it was my fault, to be honest, because I hadn't thought about it enough. But yeah, it took us 2 weeks to get someone to come and quote the blinds, and then they said, "Oh, once they'd done the measurements, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks to order them," and that meant that a couple of tenants had to move in without blinds, and we had to put them in another room because one of the rooms, the window where you sit on the toilet, looks straight out onto the street. So we didn't think it would
probably
be appropriate.
Not ideal.
Yeah. So that is an issue. We don't want to talk about COVID again because we did on the last episode, but it's another. Obviously, there's lots of issues happening, but materials, booking people, just all a bit more difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand why there's a shortage of electrician time available at the moment, because there's a sort of artificial demand created from Deadline. But I'm not quite sure why everybody else seems to be so busy. I mean, all of the tradespeople I've talked to are busy. The decorator that I'm using is someone I've used before, and I was able to, because the tenants gave me a bit of warning on that, I was able to contact them, well, nearly a couple of months ago now, and say, "I've got this need coming up. Can you please put a few days in your diary for me?" And if I hadn't done that, he said that he is chocker as well, and he wouldn't have been available for some while. And it's just, I don't know. Is it COVID, or is it that lots of people have suddenly decided they want to improve their homes because they're not going to move, or because they're spending so much more time in them? I don't know. Where are all the tradespeople?
We don't know. We just don't know.
Maybe too many of them have left the country because of Brexit. Or maybe left the country because of COVID, because they want to go back to family and things like that as well. So, I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Are you having any trouble finding tradespeople at the moment? You've just finished lots of renovation work, haven't you? So you're probably past that tradespeople need for the time being.
Well, you say that, but we do have things going on all the time. So we finish one project, and then we've got the 3-bed masonette which is being worked on. For me, it's been more, I guess I'm fortunate in that I work with the same team of people. So because we've worked together for a few years, they are quite good at prioritising, my work, and I'm always honest with them. If it's not a priority, I say that's fine, But so it's not, for me. It's been more about materials than people. Like I said about the blinds was a people issue, just because I had no relationship there, and it was just to get to the back of the queue, and also the materials, but particularly plaster. And actually, an interesting one. So I was speaking with my builder very recently. And he said that it could just be him getting ready. But he was saying to me, because we will have some more projects coming up, he was saying, just so you know, it looks like things like we've already had indications that the cost of plaster will be increasing by 20 to 25%. And immediately you might think, well, okay, 20, 25%. But on the projects we're doing, the amount of plaster we're using, we're talking a quote could theoretically rise by anywhere between 7 and 10 grand, just because of the cost of plaster increasing.
Blimey, are you building an entire house out of plaster?
But it's not just the cost of plaster. It's if the cost of plaster is increasing by 25%, there's going to be other materials within the what they need that's going to increase. So that 7 to 10k was based on actually a number of different potential materials. I mean, we obviously laughed about it, and I said, "Oh right, yeah." So what you're telling me is you're just going to put your prices up. That's really what you're telling me. But he's very good, and we've got a great relationship. But and it doesn't surprise me, given what I've seen in the last sort of 6 months, that could and most likely will happen.
So did they give any reasons why prices are going up?
We didn't talk about the reason. I think it's just the scarcity of it, because I mean we actually did have, I think I mentioned it on the podcast, we had one of my rooms was full of bags of plaster, because we were so concerned about having enough plaster for the next 2 jobs that we said let's just get it all in while we can. And for whatever reasons, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's a combination of Brexit, COVID, or just people that manufacture plaster want to make some more money. I don't know. Or
perhaps it's a bit like the toilet rolls, and word has just spread amongst people that there's a shortage of plaster, so everyone's doing what you did and buying it all up and storing it in the back room.
Yeah, it could be it. So that's just push the prices up. And if they're commercially driven, now's the time, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. But the roofer I used, I'm not entirely sure I trust everything this roofer says. So perhaps take this with a pinch of salt. But he was saying that he was having difficulty finding roof tiles. And he was saying that he might have to use ones that weren't sort of an ideal colour and things for my roof. And he was blaming COVID supply issues. So manufacturers having problems from people being able to work and actually create the things in the first place. Yeah, as I say, perhaps with a pinch of salt. But.
Yeah, or he just ran out of tiles and thought, I'm just going to give Simon whatever I've got left in my bag. So if you want to see Simon's investment property, it's the one with the red, purple and yellow tiles on the roof, just the ones that have been kicking around for the last 20 years.
Yeah, it could almost be. I mean, in the end, the tiles he used are not too dissimilar in colour from the current ones on there, apart from, of course, the fact that they're new compared to the old ones that are covered in dirt and goodness knows what else. But he did end up reusing some of the existing tiles after giving me a long lecture about how he couldn't possibly reuse existing tiles and he had to replace them all, and hence why he had to buy lots of new tiles for. He was replacing the ridge line on the top of the property, and of course the ridge line itself, yeah, fair enough, new tiles, lots of them got damaged as they came off and things. But he said he had to replace the layer of tiles below that as well. And yeah, after giving me this long lecture, I said, oh, okay, fine, fair enough. I went away and come back the next day and find out that actually he's reused about half the existing tiles on that line and only replaced about half of them. Okay, so after that long lecture on how you had to replace all of them, you now haven't. So what excuse are you going to come up with now?
Well, I was just about to start siding with the roofer, but he shot himself in the foot there, hasn't he?
Yes, definitely.
So in terms of my updates, actually, there's one thing. So I've got a couple of properties in the conveyancing process, so there's not much to talk about there. There's the Croydon flat, which we're still trying to get the external wall survey, EWS1 form from the managing agent.
Yeah, although on that Croydon one, I think you said work on the cladding remedies has completed?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it had last time we talked about it, but that's promising. So that's actually finished, and now it's really just a paperwork exercise remaining. Yes?
Yes, but no, because there is no requirement on the managing agent to get the EWS1 form. So while it feels like a logical conclusion, it's contingent on us really pushing the managing agent. And actually, the update on that is what we have done is my joint venture partner and I have. So in this building, there are 20 flats. It's a commercial and residential building. There are 20 flats. We've researched it and found that the managing agent owns 10 of them, and 10 people like us own the others, which we thought was interesting. Firstly, because if there were fewer than or lower than 50% of the managing agent, we would have a say in what happens. So, not the cynic, but I guess the business side of me says, well, there's clearly a reason for that, because we couldn't start enforcing what happens. So but anyway, so we've found out who the 10 other people are via land registry and whatnot, and we've sent letters out to them because we think there's going to be hopefully greater power in numbers just to really start forcing this through, because it's taken so long.
Could you get a private EWS1? Does it have to be done by the managing agent? Could you do it independently?
I don't know. Then I guess you'd be paying for it. You'd have to manage the collection of that, which is kind of what the managing agent should do. But the latest is that they've got 3 quotes for it. We don't know what they are, but they've got other works that they want to do. So there's a few hoops to clear, and the challenge for us all along is that for every email we send, it takes a lifetime to get back. It could take weeks. I mean, there's some things which has just taken months, which should have actually been done 6 months ago. And that is the biggest learning I've got with the managing agents, is understanding. And if I were to go through this process again, and I guess my guidance to anyone else, if you're going into a building with, this is commercial resi, so it might be slightly different, but if you're going into any building with a managing agent, connect with a few of the other owners just to find out what that agent is like, or what their experiences are like. Because if like my example, you're doing a flip and you're wanting that to be a quick process, and everyone says, yeah, the managing agent, they're fine, but it just takes them forever to get back, then actually, and you can still make a decision. I mean, we've still got the property, we're still intending to do what we're going to do with it, and hopefully we'll make a little bit more money from the property when it all comes out in the wash. But biggest learning is the managing agent. But what I was going to talk about was something else which has come up, which I've not experienced before, which was on the property I've just developed. And I mentioned on last week's episode that we got it revalued by the incumbent bank, and they valued it ridiculously low. So we've gone with another bank, Land Bay, who valued it pretty much where we wanted it to be. Well, as part of the remortgage process we're going through now, the first part was the local searches, and it came back from the local council that they couldn't do the first search. And this is last week of March, and they said we won't be able to do this particular search until the 25th of May, because they batch all their searches together, which I don't think is an unusual process and actually makes sense. However, you're usually covered on that by search indemnity insurance. So that's what will happen. You'll have search indemnity insurance, and you can still just go through with it, whatever. But basically, so we started this process around the 24th of March, and the bank came back and said, we're no longer accepting search indemnity insurance. So either you complete on this remortgage by the 31st of March, which was a week in calendar days, but as far as the solicitor was concerned, was like, 4 working days, or we'll only be able to do it when you've got the search 25th of May. So it was either you do your paperwork complete in the next week, and we'd only just started the process, or you're going to have to wait two months to get the remortgage. And I probably don't need to explain to anyone, but that wasn't a viable option for us to wait 2 months, having done what we've done, because there's a significant amount of capital to come back out of the work. But fortunately, I went back to the brokers and obviously said, look, can you speak with your BDM, your I think business development manager, and just explain to them what's happened. And fortunately, touch wood, at this point in time, they said, okay, on this occasion, we'll let you just finish the paperwork and get it in with the search indemnity insurance rather than wait another 2 months.
Oh, wow. They listened and actually helped.
Yes, at this stage. So I won't get too effusive, because I started getting effusive about a bank previously. And
and then they let you down. Yes, I remember that one.
Yeah, God bless them. But they've been okay. So I think, again, learning here is you've just got to raise it. I mean, the bottom line is, what can you do? I mean, for me, it's I would never lay down and die, but equally, there will come a point where if the bank says no, and if anyone knows that probably councils and banks are very similar in modus operandi. If the computer says no, you're not gonna get very far. But
right. Changing to equally not as bright outlooks, your other updates, I think, are around letting properties, letting rooms, and ongoing issues with that. We talked about this a few weeks ago in one of your properties where you've actually had it finished for a while, and the letting agent you've been using there hadn't managed to fill the rooms, and you've made a change. So what's going on with that? Yeah,
so I should be really clear, and this is not to be detrimental to the existing agent at all, because personality-wise they've been great. I think they've been very engaged. Yeah, it's a new company, clearly very good at what they do. But my concern is that they're probably not serving the right market. So I think they're more residential letting agents, whereas the other agents I've worked with over the sort of past few years have been very specifically designed around the co-living multi-let market, whether that's student or young professional. But I wanted to work with this new agent because I really like them. Yeah, the good news for them is they're still selling a property for me, so it's not like they're not working with me. And they filled 2 rooms, but as we talked about before, we finished a property in early March, and we've only got 2 rooms full, which is obviously an issue for me and a surprise, because at the time of this release, we will have just about finished the 3-bed masonette, and we've already got 2 people booked in, signed forms, they're ready to go. But they're not. They'll be moving in a couple of days, hence this podcast. They'll be moving in, and they took that leap. So it showed me that there is a market there for paying premium prices for property if we've just got to get out to the right customer base. And I don't think the agent, again, that's not negative for them. I think they probably just need to focus on what they're good at, which would be the residential. And the other thing is that the whole time that this agent's been trying to fill my room, and it is a unique house. I think I should be honest about that. It's a very unique house. It's got lots of artwork in it, so it's not going to be to everyone's taste. But I think it's a conversation you have when people have been to view it, or if it's about price, it's when people have been to view it. They say, "Yeah, I like it, but it's just too high," because we do have a cheaper room which starts at £100 a week versus the other rooms which are going for 135. So I think if people are coming through the door because they want the cheaper room, if it were about price, we'd have those conversations. But we're not having any of those conversations, so it just shows me we're not getting the right people through the door. Whereas another agent I work with, we filled in that time around 14 rooms. So in that space of time, and as I've said, a couple of those rooms aren't even finished yet. So I know that there are people out there looking for rooms. So just had to make that decision. because we need the occupancy.
It's really good that you've got the other experience to show that, because otherwise you might be using the one agency, and as you say, there just doesn't seem to be the response from the adverts, the footfall sort of coming through the door, and you might just think, well, maybe there's just no demand. Maybe the market is flat or sort of fallen apart from all of the stuff that's going on at the moment, which would be very possible. So yeah, it's really good that you've got the other experience with the other agent and your other rooms to know that's not the problem. And it means you can actually identify what you need to change and be able to change it, rather than, well, yeah, just being blind to what action to take.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time, don't we? But this is what it means in reality. We talk about know your market, and it sounds really simple to say, but it's not so simple to do. You know, it's about understanding who is the tenant profile, what is happening in the local market. Is your property the right property? So the thing for me, the property that hasn't got people in it, like I say, is unique. There isn't another property on the market like it, and I'm very confident of saying that because I've had someone go in and do things to it which haven't been done before. So I always had that feeling in my head, which was it's going to be Marmite. Yeah, if I'm lucky, it's Marmite. We'll have people that come in and just go no, and we'll have people that come in, but it's about getting people in. My benefit comes from, in that road, in that street, I own or operate 4 houses in total. In that street, I have 23 rooms in that one street. So I know that street very, very well. And I know this part of the world very well. And I know it's a great location. And the fact that the 2 people in there I've gone in and had long conversations with, and to be honest with you, the type of people that have gone in there, what surprised me was that they weren't that bothered about the artwork. It was kind of like, yeah, it's just nice, but I really liked the rooms. I liked the en-suites. And it's because what I know, it's like 20 paces from a main thoroughfare where you're, you know, on a main street, you know, it's got good location. So it was like, yeah, they didn't even really talk about the artwork. It was just a case of, no, it's just a really nice property, brand new. It's what I wanted. And I thought, okay, so that gives me some insight.
So next time you can save money on the artist.
Yeah. And the crap load of money that I've spent on brick panels may not be as required.
The tenants turn around and say, brick panels? What brick panels?
Yeah, exactly. So, but just having all of that information made me feel quite confident, because you're right. I think that's a really good point. Is if we are dependent on one agent, one builder, one accountant, you know, and this is why I think for me it's taken time to build the right team around me, to build that trust, so we can have those conversations. But even so, you know, I've got such a good relationship with my builder. I now tell him when I'm cross-quoting, because if it were up to him, he would do everything. And this is just coming back to knowing your market. I'm just trying to link what we're talking about is understanding where you're at. And the reason I cross-quoted him was because I just said, look, you've got so much on for me. I don't feel it's fair to keep giving you this. So I'm just to let you know I'm going to cross-quote. Turns out that the cross-quote was just way too high. Really didn't understand what we were going for. So I had to go back and say, look, would you mind quoting for this job? But it's, when you've got those relationships, I think it's so much more helpful. Because I've had that experience with accountants, letting agents and so on, where they've said, we don't think this is possible, or we don't think it's going to be lettable. And I think the final straw for me was just, I'd given them a good chance. I think they'd had the property almost 2 months. You know, their argument, a fair one, well, you only finished it at the start of March, which is true. But as we've just said, I've still 66% occupied a property I still haven't finished. They said, you know, we think it's about price. And you know when you're starting to go on price, you know, it's either right or... But I said, yeah, but we have dropped the price, so it's on the market for the lowest room rate. So for me, that if it were about price, you'd tell me about the conversations you've had on price. It wouldn't just be... Because I've got other rooms which are nowhere near as good as the room I'm advertising here, you know, for the same price. So not sure, but...
I think when we were talking about it before, we talked about where the marketing is taking place. And yeah, perhaps that's really the answer for finding the footfall. But it'll be interesting to see. And in our next update in a few weeks' time to see what results your change to a different agent actually achieves, and whether those results are fast or slow.
I'll be very surprised if I'm not talking about being full or almost full the next time we speak.
Well, I hope that is the case.
Yeah, I'm willing to. Yeah, I'm putting myself out there for that one. But I was just going to ask. So when you fill your properties, you go through an agent just to you basically get a finding service, don't you?
I have done in the past, but the current one, or the one I have recently let, I did all myself. So it's very local to me. I can get there quickly and things if I need to. So in the past, I've done viewings myself. This time around, the current tenants did the viewings largely due to COVID precautions. But yeah, all myself on this one. And if I manage to find a new investment property that's also local to me, then I will carry on with that and use online tools to market it, and then do the actual tenant processing myself. And while introduction agents are obviously an awful lot cheaper than managing agents, they're still quite a lot of money. Depending on which agent and where you are and things, you're looking at somewhere between 2 weeks' rent and a month's rent. And that's a lot of money to potentially lose from your tenancy, or from that process. Especially if you might be looking at doing that every year, and if your tenants aren't so long term, but even every couple of years, losing up to a month's rent is quite significant.
It's very significant, and the truth is, if my properties were closer, I would be doing it not primarily for financial reasons, although that would definitely be a key reason, because you're right. I mean, the first two rooms that go, I don't receive any money for that first month, so then I'm only looking at 11 months revenue. And then I've got to take out all the maintenance costs, and then I've got to take out the cost of everything else. So actually, you might say, oh, it's only, let's say 500 quid, but actually that 500 quid might equate to something like 5-10% in profit, which is significant, which is really significant. So, but for me, it's just thinking about knowing your market. I think the fact that you actually get out to meet people, not physically anymore, appreciate that, but you have an understanding of who's coming in. You'll have exchanges with them. So you'll understand the type of the profile, for want of a simpler phrase, of the people that are coming to you for your properties. And I think
totally
that
agree.
is really important for us as investors to get a sense of that, which is why personally I can then have confidence to say, actually, I need to move agents now. I've given them a chance. I've been honest, but because I've got that understanding, I'm not as reticent to make a change.
Yep, indeed. I totally agree. I think there's the financial benefit to doing it yourself, but also a huge benefit from actually getting to know your tenants, getting to talk to the people and interact with them, and be able to sort of get that gut feel, apart from anything else, on who you want to be your new tenants. There's a lot of value in that as well.
Well, it feels like we're almost providing advice here, which is unusual for us. But I think that draws us to the end of this podcast. We seem to be running over, so we'll wrap it up there. If you've listened this far, I'm hoping you're enjoying the show. We're hoping you're enjoying the show. So please do leave us at least a rating on your podcast player of choice. And if you're feeling really kind, a review. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. We love getting emails from people that are listening to the show. And if you want to find out a little bit more about us or look into the podcast, just head over to thebusinessofproperty.com. Until next week.